Coming up, we're going to meet a very interesting man. Ask yourself, could you defend yourself or your loved ones if need be? In a minute, you'll meet a man who could teach you that. He's a sixth Dan black belt in Taekwondo, which means he could definitely kill you with one kick if he wanted to, but it's just not something he would do. He's peaceful, gentle. He's all about the discipline and the respect. You'll meet him in just a moment.
G'day, how you going?
Very well. Now, Peter, to describe you, because I've met you a couple of times, and you're a gentleman with a large grey beard, and you exude a grandfatherly, spiritual type presence, and yet you're a sixth Dan black belt, and you could kill me if you wanted to.
Hopefully not needing to, so just be nice to you, Mike. Ask the right questions and we'll get on fine.
All right, then. Now, you were unusual, your journey through. Now, I say Taekwondo, but you say Taekwondo, don't you?
Yeah, just different pronunciations. It all equates to the same thing. It essentially means foot, fist, way. So the art of foot and fist. The equivalent of karate is from Japan. Taekwondo is from Korea.
Okay.
So it's the Korean form of martial art equivalent to karate, or kung fu would be from China. So the Taekwondo, an Olympic sport, and yeah, you're quite right. I've pretty much put my life into it. It's about 45 years of training, and I've been teaching now for getting close to that 40-year mark as well. So.
Well, I was going to say to you, my understanding is you were teaching this as quite a young fella.
Yes, I had an interesting introduction to teaching. As a teenager, my instructor from my little hometown in Coffs Harbour up and left town for some reason, which we didn't find out, but can't have been good. But he disappeared, and essentially the class was left with no instructor. So we had a few other people that were higher ranked than myself try and take the class on, but they really had no idea how to do it and how to teach. And they ended up leaving, and I was basically the last man standing at that stage. So I was the highest rank as about a 15-year-old kid.
Wow, you're 15.
15, yes. And I contacted my instructor that was in charge of the organisation that I was involved with at the time. And they got me into a situation where I'd travel from Coffs Harbour up to Tweed Heads, train for a week, then I'd go back to my little hometown, train everything that I'd learned over that course of that week, back to my students and fellow kids, because I had basically a class of kids from school. And then it developed further. The club started to grow, and I got to have about 45 other students training with me whilst I was still 15, 16 years of age. I didn't even have a driver's licence, but so the assistance that I received from the instructors from Tweed Heads was very crucial. I saw teaching in different ways from different instructors. I was doing 4 nights a week, 2 lessons each night, and then I was training during the day. So I was essentially doing upwards of about 20, 30 hours of training over the course of that 4 days, and then I learned how other people were receiving teaching and sort of developed my own style, I suppose. So.
Do you think you would have become a teacher, an instructor, if it hadn't have played out that way? Was that what you wanted to do, or did you just want to keep doing this martial art, and it was the only way to make it happen was to become the instructor?
Yeah, pretty much actually. Yeah, I mean, I always had grand visions of doing something else. I originally moved to Brisbane when I was 17 to study acupuncture. Did that for 12 months and discovered it wasn't quite what I was after, but I knew I wanted something involved in a healthy industry. And the martial arts, I was a little bit lucky and gifted in the fact that I got very flexible when I was very young. So hence I was that kid that could do full side splits without warming up too much.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was very easy for me to kick very high, and Taekwondo is traditionally very much a kicking style. So it seemed to work really well for me. But, when I was learning, I was thinking it'd be wonderful to have my own dojo, which is basically a training hall or dojang in Korean. Have a setup and maybe have an acupuncture and a massage type studio set up in conjunction with it, but never really fell together in that way. But when I got asked to move to Brisbane by the hierarchy of the organisation that I was with to actually establish some classes up here for them, I sort of jumped at the opportunity because it was like, okay, it's not just a 2-night thing type thing that I was doing just in the local area. It was something that would one get me away from Coffs Harbour, the little town, into the big smoke, and I suppose the rest sort of is history. I suppose I got up and established a couple of classes on the south side of Brisbane, which I'm no longer going because I then moved to the north side. But my vision wasn't really to be an instructor initially. It just I just wanted to continue my training, and that was the fun part of what I was doing, is sharing what I'd learned so far. And once I started getting the feedback from people that were enjoying what I was teaching and the way I was doing it, just encouraged me more to keep going with it.
To keep going. ABC Radio Brisbane and Queensland. Mike Van Ack is my name. I'm talking to Peter Cameron, who runs Modern Taekwondo here in Brisbane. I shouldn't say here in Brisbane because we're statewide, but you know what I mean. Now, obviously, you're very drawn to this, and it's been such a guiding part of your life. What do you love so much about it, Peter?
I love the feedback. I love seeing the results that people get from it. I like getting the comments back about how it's helped people. I've been very, very lucky in the fact that I've had a lot of younger black belts go through that are still with me. That I've been teaching them for 25, 30 years or more in some cases. So I've got a really, I suppose, a family feel about my club, and that's one of the appeals that I do get referred back to all the time, is the fact that it does feel like a large family. So I suppose they're my chosen family. You can't choose your family, so this is my chosen family.
Fair call, yeah.
And I have a lot of those young black belts I consider to be my kids. So when people say, "Oh, do you have kids?" It's like, yeah, I've got about 200. So it's one little joke that I like to say, and it sort of gets people bewildered. But yeah, I do wear that badge with great honour. I like, I really love the feedback that parents will give me that their kids have improved at school, or that their attitude has changed, or that they're just succeeding much better.
And what is it about Taekwondo that leads to those benefits in other areas of people's lives?
Many things, but in particular probably the discipline that we do have within a class. Now, it's not just Taekwondo, it's any martial arts class will offer discipline, but you get a routine going, you get a respect happening between the instructor and the student. If the student is enjoying what they're doing, they look up their instructor with a great deal of reverence, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I'm still the same way. I still look at my original instructors with great awe. Even though that was such a long time ago, they gave me a foundation. Whereas other sports and other things don't really give you the feedback about self-improvement in particular. But also the fact that I've helped people learn how to defend themselves. I've had a young lady, for example, she'd only just received her black belt. She was still about 14, 15 years of age, walking home from school one day, and someone tried to abduct her, tried to force her into a car, and she used our training. So she kicked, screamed, elbowed, etc., and got away from the scene and ran to a local house which was nearby, raised the attention. This person jumped in the car and drove off, but she ended up going around Queensland with some of the local police, just giving talks on safety aspects, etc. But to had one of my students who I'd been teaching since a white belt be in that situation, and had her parents come in and tell me about this situation that had occurred, and that she was able to defend herself was very, very satisfying from my perspective.
Oh, and look, just as a parent hearing that story, I'm just so glad that that young lady had the training.
Yeah, I get a lot of feedback from situations. Now, the whole point of martial arts is not to fight. It's so you don't have to fight. If you know how to fight, hopefully you never need to. But it gives you the confidence to be able to walk the street a little bit more confidently without having to cross the road every time, being aware of your surroundings. But I've had mothers have home intruders. I've had a couple of young students have knives drawn on them, and they've been able to work their way out of that situation and calm things down. So it's not all about having a response, with the foot or the fist. It's about having some skills about you and some wits about you, and hopefully being a sharp mind as well. So it's an interesting story that I do get back from almost every parent, that there's been some sort of improvement within the children. I've had a few losses. I've had one or two kids which have obviously gone off the path, but that's not normal.
Sure.
Martial arts clubs, there's one or two people that don't wish to be disciplined, I suppose. But, on the whole, we keep a very, very tight little ship within the club. We We try to make sure that there is discipline within our classes that will translate into the way that they'll have discipline in their school, in work, in life after they get up. Because we generally start with a lot of kids, there's no doubt about it. Majority of our clubs will be in the sub 15-year age bracket.
Yeah, okay.
We have a lot of young ones. We do get adults, but not nearly as many as I'd like to see.
Mm-hmm.
And we do get a lot of females into the class as well, which is actually really, really satisfying to see as well.
You've just made me wonder, is there a time in a person's life where they're just too old to take this up?
Well, no, not really at all. In fact, I've had students that have actually joined the club in their 60s.
Oh, good. There's still time for me, Peter.
There is. I keep saying I'll bring a uniform for you. It's very easy. That's the hardest part is getting on the floor. Once you've been on the floor, the second time it's easier. The times
Yeah.
by the fourth or fifth time, you're actually you're into that flow, and it's just normal practice then. But yeah, the hardest part is actually physically get someone onto the floor if they've never seen or never been to a martial arts class before. But,
Yeah. Well, I've actually been to some of your school's classes. I've seen them. I haven't participated, but I've seen them, and I've seen your tournaments. And you talk about discipline, but it's almost a voluntary discipline. The students there, your students, are shown the way, but no one's standing over them. They tend to just take to it really well. I think they must feel the benefits that they're getting from it.
Yeah, we do make sure that the instructors from each individual class try and instill the same sort of things. Hopefully they are a reflection of what I have taught them. So if I'm teaching them the right way, they'll teach that same thing. And it's great when I do go along to a training session or a camp these days where I'm asking one of my other instructors to teach something, and I actually hear all the same words. Maybe there's slight variations, but essentially the teachings are all the same. So it's a trickle down. It's what I've actually instilled in my other black belts. They're now instilling in their students. So the discipline part comes very freely to those people who wish to enjoy it. And so there are some that won't take discipline very well, but on the whole, that's only a very, very small percentage of anyone that joins a martial arts class. So martial arts is all about, that not having to fight, but the joy that we get out of seeing people be part of something that we all enjoy doing as well just flows through everything, I suppose. But no, I'm very happy to see people not have to be disciplined, that they seem to know what is expected of them.
Well, Peter, congratulations on 25 years. That's an amazing accomplishment. And think of all the young lives you have affected in a positive way.
Yeah, it does blow me away. Quite often, I think I never set out to do what it's now become, but no regrets. Probably the best decision in my life was to actually step away from the other organisation that I was with to establish the new one, and then to have this group of people come with me and then develop and grow from there into about 250 close friends these days, I suppose, is the best way of putting it.
I love it. Peter Cameron from Modern Taekwondo, thank you so much for your time this evening on ABC Radio Brisbane and Queensland.
Thank you very much, Mike, and you have a wonderful night. I look forward to seeing you on the floor. I believe that a size 5 uniform would probably fit you nicely.
On that note, I leave thee. Thank you, Peter.
Thanks very much, Mike.
Cheers.
Bye now.